In this video, I talked to Gary Huang from Seven Figure Seller Summit, and I asked him to share the takeaways he got when he was interviewing seven-figure sellers and the Amazon experts which work with Amazon brands. And if you would like to check the content Gary produces, check the link below in the description for the Seven Figure Seller Summit. And you can sign up and watch some sessions for free for a limited time. Great content. You might also get good takeaways, and you can probably apply them to increase the profits and the value of your Amazon business. And if you like videos we create, don't forget to click like. And again, check the link below for Seven Figure Seller Summit. And now let's jump to the session where Gary is sharing the takeaways. Hello, Gary. It's nice to have you here. So could you please introduce yourself and tell us more about what you do in Amazon space?
Hey, Augustus, thanks so much for having me back. My name is Gary Huang. I'm the host and founder of the Seven Figure Seller Summit. We were voted two-time winners of Seller Post's favorite Amazon conference and event 2020 and 2021. So today I am super excited to tell you a little bit more of what Seven Figure Sellers are doing in 2022 to really win on Amazon in e-commerce. So our conference is really designed to help intermediate, advanced level Amazon sellers to build skill and exit their businesses. So that's what we do.
If you would like to check the summit Gary is organizing, find the link below in the description. And I invited Gary here to share what things seven-figure sellers are doing in 2022 to win and to make more money and to make more profit from their Amazon business, because Gary is talking a lot with seven-figure sellers and with a lot of influencers and experts which help other seven-figure and maybe eight-figure sellers to run successful businesses, right?
Yes, Augustus, 100%.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, let's move on with the first thing you think seven-figure sellers do to win in this year.
Yes. So as of 2022, from what everyone is seeing, the whole e-commerce space is kind of like the Wild West. So if you think about it, on one hand, there's huge growth ongoing on Amazon and e-commerce, especially right now. We're still trying to exit the pandemic. A lot of things are uncertain, but one thing that is certain is e-com growth is still tremendous. And the other big opportunity that many of you guys know is exits. Amazon businesses are red hot right now. We're seeing valuation multiples in the 5x to even 7x range from buyers like Thrasio. So this could be a once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of you guys out there with very established businesses. But on the other hand, just like in the Wild West, as you see in those cowboy movies, there's all these risks that could shoot your business down, right? We have the whole supply chain perfect storm, the high shipping costs that sellers are still experiencing, the rising cost of PPC, the continued increased cost of the competition. So I feel like, it is a lot of opportunity on one hand, but there's a lot of risks. So as I was talking to these seven-figure sellers and experts, one thing really surprised me, Augustus, and that is, something I discovered it's actually contrary to a lot of what you would expect. And typically there's that saying, right? Don't put all of your eggs in one basket, right? You don't want to do everything just on Amazon. You want to, most people say you got to diversify. And then, I've said this in the past as well, right? It's very risky to put all your things in one basket. But as of right now, you really need to focus on just one to two things as Amazon sellers that you can really execute and you can do much better than your competitors. So this thing really surprised me the most, because these successful sellers, they were not diversifying into too many different things. They were not distracted by all those shiny new objects, all those new things that you can do, right? So for example, John Elder is a seven-figure seller who recently exited. He sold his business in the mid seven-figure range. And in his session, from a 7 to 5 job to a seven-figure exit, he really shared his exit story, right? So his main focus was just to research the right products to add to his product line. He had 5 brands in his Amazon account. And then his mission was just to launch them successfully. Okay. And then he did it the right way. He wasn't doing black hat, all those, those things that could risk his business. Right. And then he shared that it took him 5 years to build this business. He was working a full time 7 to 5 job in construction, not just 9 to 5. Construction guys got to wake up at 7 to go to the site. And then for his first 3 years of building his business, he was working full time. Okay. And they had a newborn baby as well. So I was like, man, how did you manage all your time? And, Augustus and I, we struggle with our time, and he's building, 7-figure business, working full time. So he said, he just focused on his one thing, right? Picking the right products to add to his product line. He had like a mission statement. All of his products had to fit that mission statement. Okay. But on the other hand, he wasn't distracted by other things. So he started out managing his own PPC. It took up too much time. Once he hit his business to a certain level, he outsourced that. Okay. So he outsourced things like his PPC, and then all his booking, all his numbers, he outsourced all of that to an accountant and a bookkeeper. All right. So by doing things like this, really focusing on the one or two things, he wasn't distracted, and he was able to build that success over time. And it took him 5 years. So this isn't a get rich quick scheme, guys. I mean, we're building a real business. And he told me he was like so burnt out, the first 3 years, and then eventually he was able to quit his job. But he, the other thing that I find 7-figure sellers do is they take educated risks, right? They're not just like risking their whole, business overnight, right? So before he quit his job, he really had a discussion with his wife, and then he had to demonstrate that his business could pay him the same income that he was getting from his job. His Amazon business could pay him the same income from his work salary for 6 months. And once he was stable for 6 months, then he decided to quit his job. So I was really, fascinated by that, because entrepreneurs, like successful ones, they take educated risks because they try to reduce the risk. So I would say that's the number one thing. Just focus on one to two things. Don't diversify too much. Don't like try to overexpand into like that other marketplace, because that might add like 1 to 2%, but that's not going to significantly grow your business like what John was doing.
No, it's definitely inspiring, and we talk behind the scenes with you, Gary, how we are kind of we don't know how to manage our team, how to expand. It's just you are just growing, but that guy was doing full-time job, and he
Yes,
managed to
John
build
Elder.
an Amazon business, to the
Yeah.
full payment.
Yes. Yes. Yes, but he told me like he sacrificed no Netflix, no gym. He put on weight, but then after the exit, he took a 1 year like sabbatical. He said like I'm not gonna even think about work for 1 year, and then he was like working out, and he spent more time with his family. But during that time, like he actually had to talk to his wife like at night, like honey, I gotta take this 1 hour to answer customer service questions, or I gotta talk to my China supplier. So he really sacrificed a lot, but he just really focused on those 1 to 2 things to really be able to achieve that exit. So it takes sacrifice as well.
Yeah, of course, it's a reminder to everyone also that the full interview with that person you will find in Seven Figure Seller Summit. The links below. And what is the second takeaway you took from all these conversations with the big sellers?
Yes. So the second big takeaway is in terms of the mindset. And I would say, because right now we're in the Wild West, we have execute or die mindset. Really resiliency, speed, right? You can't just skate on by now anymore like you did before, right? You really have to pivot quickly, focus on speed. It's almost like in the Wild West, it's like a duel between two cowboys. Like whoever draws first, is going to be the winner. Whoever reacts first, right? If you're too slow, you're going to get blown away, right? Because you have not only all the competitors, Chinese competitors, but also, the big aggregators, right? So you're not going to just skate on by like you did before. So for example, with Amazon launch strategy, so I'm sure everyone knows Amazon had the TOS change, the terms of service change in late of last year, right? So they don't allow rebates anymore. They don't allow certified buy, these things to influence ranking, right? So if you do the same launch strategy in 2021, if you're using those things, If you do those same things right now, you could risk getting suspended, right? So you need to quickly pivot, just like those cowboys and cowgirls, right? So sellers like Sharon Evans, she's a seven-figure seller. In her session at the summit, she shared the PPC launch with buying intent in mind. So she's really developing a product launch strategy that doesn't use any of those tactics that are not allowed anymore, right? So she's focusing on PPC launch strategies, still doing it successfully. She's choosing the right products that fit into this model, right? So you really have to be resilient. You have to react quickly. Otherwise, you're going to get shot on down, right? So this is actually related to the third point. The third point is, as we're executing and being very resilient very quickly, the costs are very high right now. So, sellers know if you're importing from overseas, these containers, they used to cost like $2,000 to $3,000, before the pandemic, just a few years ago. Now they're costing upwards $20,000. That's 10 times the cost, right? So the costs are high. You really have to focus on your profitability right now. If you're doing, if you're selling the same price as before, if you don't check your numbers, you're really gonna dig yourself in a hole, right? So the focus on the profitability, I would say it begins in supply chain. Okay, what do I mean by that? Supply chain, talking about sourcing, right? Many of you may not have negotiated with your suppliers recently. I mean, like the pricing of your product, the pricing that you got when you place an order for 500 units, if you're placing an order for 5,000 units, you can negotiate for better pricing because the suppliers have economies of scale. So if you haven't done that, you should really negotiate pricing. At the time that we're talking right now, Augustus, it's right after Chinese New Year. Traditionally, if you're working with Chinese suppliers, right now is the time they adjust their pricing, right? So I would anticipate price increases. It's kind of like their new financial year. They go by the Chinese New Year calendar. So if your supplier is going to move your price up, you really have to prepare for that, right? You don't want to go to the negotiating table, with nothing, empty handed, right? Really, you got to be prepared for that. And besides that, I find a lot of sellers, I'm really surprised, they don't negotiate other things besides the price with their supplier. I mean, there's a lot of things you can benefit, right? Like, for example, your payment terms, right? I mean, most sellers, they go for 30% deposit, 70% payment before the shipment, but you can do better than that. So with some of the suppliers I work with, I can negotiate for zero upfront. Like, I don't have to pay anything. And then I only pay 30 days after shipment. So if you think about that, if you can move your cash flow, like, 30, 70, let's say that's a $10,000 order. If you can delay that payment until like net 30 days after shipment, think about what you can do with that money in, like, that's like almost like 2 months, 3 months time, right? We're in a crunch. So maybe you can pay for your warehousing. Maybe you can pay for more PPC, or you can pay yourself that salary that you haven't been paying yourself, right? These are all things that you guys need to do because the costs are very high. You need to focus on your profitability. There's many other examples as well. As you know, with the high shipping costs, package sizes, right? So I interviewed Jamie Peros. He's a seven-figure seller based in Australia, and he's an expert when it comes to optimizing his supply chain carton sizes, right? So what do I mean by that? So in your container, many times we just ask our supplier, how many units do I fit in the carton and how many units can I put in the container? They give us a number, we just accept that. But actually, they're not optimized, right? You could be putting a lot more units into the same shipping container. So think about it. If you're paying $20,000 for a container of units, let's say you're getting like 600 units, right? If you can optimize that, let's say you can bump that out to 800 units or even 900 units, think about the amount of money you're saving. You're going to decrease your landed costs, right? So sellers like Jamie Peros, they're really optimizing, they've developed tools to really optimize this because, I mean, we're not experts, we don't know like all of the dimensions and the math behind it, but there's tools out there. So sellers like Jamie Peros, optimizing his supply chain, cut down his costs, increase his profits to be more competitive in 2022. And again, if you're not doing this, think about that duel, right? Your competitors are doing that, you're going to get blown away, right? So I would say, you really need to focus on the profitability. And another example, thinking outside the box, ways to improve your profitability. Look at other ways to cut your cost of goods sold. So I interviewed two seven-figure sellers, Ken Wilson and David Schomer. They're based in the US. They're in the Midwest. Okay. So in their session, they shared their complete roadmap on how they self-manufacture in the USA. They actually manufacture in America, right? So previously they did the same thing as everyone else. They sourced from China, but then they got hit with the tariffs, and then they got hit with the high shipping costs, and then the delays, right? So then they found a way to move their sourcing to the US. And then even though the labor cost is higher in the US, they were able to cut their product landed costs. And then what surprised me most about them is like they bought out like their neighbor's barn. Like, they live in middle America. They had like this big barn, and then it was filled with junk, and then they cleaned it out. I mean, it's a super interesting story. And then they were able to move their production across the street from their house. So they were able to not only they were able to cut the delivery times. I mean, can you imagine, Augustus, how short the delivery is, like from across the street of your house versus from like, halfway across the world in like China or India, right? He was able to cut it down, from 4 months delivery to 4 days, 4 days delivery. Think about that, guys, right? And then he was also able to cut the MOQ because they're quickly able to pivot. I mean, they have a couple of employees, and then, he can just walk over, and then he's in the workshop, and like he really enjoys like messing around with all the equipment, and he has a sense of pride, making something himself and seeing that product, right? So think about, and but the bottom line is this actually decreased the cost compared to China, because he was able to cut the tariffs to 25%. He was able to reduce the high shipping rates. Obviously it's not for every product, but these are all ways that sellers are doing right now, to focus, increase their profitability.
When you were talking about the high costs and that there are possibilities to kind of to lower the cost and get more cash available for your business, I remember how a lot of experts, when they talk about Amazon business, they say know your numbers, know your numbers. So it reminded me this point.
100%, Augustus. You're exactly right. That would be the fourth big takeaway. I mean, everyone says know your numbers, and I love that quote by Peter Drucker, who says, "Whatever gets measured gets managed." Right, and then surprisingly, a lot of sellers they don't really know their numbers, especially right now because the shipping costs are rising, the raw material costs are rising, your sourcing costs could be going up, the PPC costs. I've talked to PPC experts like Ritu Java from PPC Ninja, and she says the year on year the cost per click are up about 23% according to the sellers that she's been working with, right? So you really have to know your numbers. One example is in terms of your products. So a lot of sellers, their products are like their babies, right? They want to continue to grow them even if they're not performing. But the successful sellers, the smart sellers, they know their numbers, so they actually fire the non-performing products. Okay, so one of the key metrics that these smart sellers are using is called the post advertising gross. So what is that? The post advertising gross margin. So this is actually your gross margin, and then you subtract your advertising cost, right? So you subtract your Amazon PPC cost, you subtract any non-Amazon advertising like Facebook ads, Google ads, etc. So in terms of this, I was talking to the seller accountant, Tyler Jeffcoat, at our last event. And then he says the post advertising gross, there's a couple benchmarks that you can use. And I'd like to share with you guys. Okay. So the best products are getting 35% post advertising gross margin. Okay. 35%. That's very high. Okay. Good products are getting close to 25%. If it's around 20%, that's a yellow flag. You have to kind of rehabilitate these type of products because they're not performing very well. Okay. And if it's 15% or under that, you got to fire that product. Okay. Because that's bleeding your business. That could kill your business. Okay. So that's one of the key things in terms of knowing your numbers. And then there's many, many other things that I wish I had more time to share with you guys. I also spoke with Anna Hill. She's an accountant, a CPA that's worked with many seven-figure sellers, and then she shared the 5 characteristics of profitable sellers. So I think that would be super valuable for you guys, and also some of the most common mistakes that sellers, they keep on making the same mistakes. I mean, she's worked with probably hundreds of sellers, so she's really able to see these common threads. That's why I wanted to invite her on to share with you guys. But at the end of the day, because of the increasing competition, all the increasing costs, you really have to know your numbers right now. And which brings us to our last point, exits, right? Selling your business. And I find that the successful sellers that exited their business, they prepared for it. Not only did they prepare, they built a roadmap so that you can get that valuation that you want, right? Because as we discussed earlier, Amazon businesses are red hot right now. You're seeing 5x to 7x multiples. I mean, if we just looked at 2 years ago, I mean, a 3x multiple was considered good, but now we're seeing up to 5 to 7x. I mean, it's almost like the housing market. It's like, red hot right now, and we don't know how long this bubble is going to last, guys, right? So now could be your once in a lifetime opportunity, but if you do it the right way, right? So you have to build a roadmap for your valuation. So let's say you want to have a goal, right? Let's say your goal is to net $1 million at the end of the day into your bank account. That's after all the taxes, all the fees, all the brokerage fees, and everything, right? So if let's say you're already at the seven-figure business at the range right now, if you want to do it in 12 months, you really have to break it down into the details, into the nuts and bolts, right? How many products you need to calculate, how many products do you need to launch in the next 12 months, right? So let's say you need to launch 6 more products in the next 12 months. Also, you got to consider the capital that you need, right? So look at your cash flow. Do you have enough? If you don't have enough, most sellers, they have to take out loans, right? Lending, consider Amazon lending. There's also external lending out there with banks, with Small Business Association in America. There's also external, like other companies that do this as well, right? So it's really, you have to reverse engineer this, guys. With the sellers that I've spoken with, it's actually very interesting because some of the sellers I interviewed several years ago, and then they just exited, and then I'll bring them back to share their exit story. So everyone's journey is different, right? Everyone has successes, they make mistakes. So I feel that it would be super valuable if you are thinking about exiting to learn from others that have done it, right? So that's why I think the last day of the summit, day 5, where we really focus on exits, we bring back real sellers that have exited. We have buyers, Thrasio's on, they're sharing what they're looking for in private label businesses. We also have a broker, Quiet Light Brokerage, Joe Valley. He really added a very special presentation because this is something that most sellers overlook when they exit. And if you don't do this, you could be sacrificing hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's very simple. This thing is called add backs. So your seller discretionary earnings, this is something many sellers overlook, right? So there's certain things that you can add back to the valuation of your business. Your salary, if you're the owner's salary, even your credit card points. I know a lot of you guys use your credit cards, for PPC, right? You can actually add that back, right? There's also the cost of the tools that most sellers use, right? So by adding that back, if you're able to get a 7x multiple, every like $1,000 you add back, that could be worth additional $7,000 on your exit price. So highly recommend that you check out that session, Joe Valley, and day 5 of the summit. So that's, I mean, these 5 takeaways, these are only my personal takeaways, guys. So I know everyone is at a different stage of their business. Maybe you're already a 7 or 8-figure seller. You're thinking about exits, right? That could be very valuable. Or if you're just getting started, right? Looking at what 7-figure sellers are doing right now if they were starting over today, right? People like Brandon Young, he's sharing his product selection and product research strategy for 2022, right? A launch strategy, right? If you're thinking about launching, Chris Rawlings is sharing his 2022 product launch strategy that isn't using rebates, that it's not using search find buy, right? So these are ways that you can launch, without getting suspended, right? So We have over 25 speakers, seven-figure sellers, e-commerce experts, really showing what's working right now in the Wild West. So I'm super excited. I don't know about you guys, but that's why I wanted to come on and share with Augustus and the whole Orange Click community.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gary. And of course, if you would like to listen to full-length presentations, which Gary mentioned in this talk, check the link below for the Seven Figure Seller Summit. This summit is happening in the end of February 2022. If you're watching this video a little bit later, there might be still possibility to purchase the recordings. But all these great speakers, I'm sure if you missed this event, Gary will do another Seven Figure Seller Summit. So always check the link below. It will be valid.
Yes. And if I can add just one more thing, Augustus, we actually prepared a free pass for everyone. So it's a 24-hour free pass. If you want to just check it out, there's no risk, right? So I mean, highly recommend. I mean, just one takeaway, it could add maybe an extra zero to your business.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I didn't even know that it's always available for 24 hours. So your upcoming event will be structured in 5 days, 5 sections, 5 topics, right? Can you go through them?
Yes. So we've structured it in 5 days. So every day is a different phase. So this is almost like the natural progression of building a 7-figure business. So day 1 is all about the mindset and the fundamentals of 7-figure sellers. Day 2 is all about marketing, PPC, branding. Day 3 is all about scaling your business up. Day 4 is all about profitability, right? So at the end of the day, keeping more money in your pocket, which is super important now. And day 5 is all about exits. And then we've also built different tracks, right? So if you're an advanced 7-figure seller, we have the more advanced topics for you. You can see in our session calendar, right? And then there's also more intermediate topics. Let's say you're in the 6-figure range. And then there's also topics for everyone, for all levels, even if you're just starting out. So there's, you can choose your own adventure, through this journey, depending on where you are to get the most value from it.
Perfect. Thank you, Gary. Again, link below to the 7-Figure Seller Summit with lots of great speakers and successful entrepreneurs. Thank you very much, Gary, and good luck in your business. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Augustus. Bye, everyone.
So check the link below for the 7-Figure Seller Summit. Like this video, like Gary's content, and I hope you will get really good takeaways when you will watch these free sessions Gary is offering. And now I would like to offer to watch other video, which is quite popular on our channel, where Sasha Gorelik is talking about A+ content, and this can also help you to improve your profits in your Amazon business.